Creamy.
I guess I'm live on here. Is it live? Am I live? Am I live? Okay. Well, hi everybody. Hi. Don't see a counter on here. Will I have a counter? I don't. It's telling me to go live. But I am live.
Just go out on YouTube and then go back in just as a regular page.
I'm getting instruction on how to look at your comments. So I'm hoping that as you jump on, I'm in my studio right now, so I'm trying to figure out how to get a hold of them. I see us. Okay, here we are. So, all right, I'm waiting for just a minute. It's delayed, so. Say hi if you're on with me. I'm gonna jump in just a minute. How is everyone going? What is happening? How is your morning? It's morning where I am. Things are good for me. Just waiting for people to jump on. Say hi. Tell me how you're going. All the things. I'm here in my studio and I've got my producer Keith with me, and so he does not like to speak to me during our broadcast, but I want him to come. I'm going to tell you something. When I do lives, it's so great when you all talk to me because I'm just not talking to space, right? I mean, I literally, here, I'll just disclose this. Before I go live, I do say a prayer, and I ask that I be in, the space of the Spirit, which, God is always around and God is always near. So, and just that I get reconnected with that. So I always know God is here and God is influencing our conversation, but it's so nice to have other people around that are interacting, right? So that's why I love for you all to, say hi, to comment, all the things. And I dearly love it that Keith's here because every once in a while he can't help himself and he'll make a comment. We actually chatted about today's live before I was going on, and he was saying a few points to me, and I said, please say those, please say those. And by the way, I would like to do a studio thing where you could come be live with me and participate in those kind of things at some point. So we're planning into that. I have to talk Keith into it a little bit more, so that you would be in the studio and see all the cameras, all the things that are going on in here. And if you're watching my lives and it's got this beautiful set, it's highly likely that I'm on set. Otherwise, I'm in different places doing lives, not lives, lives. Okay, well, let's jump in. So say hey as you come on. Let me know how it's going, all the things. And I want to tell you, yesterday I was, I live down at the beach. And I decided to I was leaving town to come here to the studio. And my studio, this studio, where I record, is 4 hours away from where I live. And I'm trying to talk Keith into moving to the beach so I don't have to drive so far, but he hasn't figured that out yet. So anyway, in the meantime, I come to his studio where he's got everything, all the things, right? And before I left, I decided to go to the beach and take a walk. And so it was just a beautiful day, beautiful morning. You know how any of those of you all live in the United States in the South, sometimes in the morning in the summer, it's just so beautiful. It's 75 degrees and just, not hot, no humidity, which is not usual in the summer here. Just beautiful day. And so I started looking for seashells, and it was just having a blast. I was finding there were so many, and I wish I had an example I had brought with me, but I didn't. And there were some periwinkles, and then there were these others that are, fairly usual there, but they're really pretty. They're kind of like looped around and look kind of like a conch shell, but they're smaller. I was just having a blast. And I found one, and I was putting them in my pocket, and then I found another one, and then all of a sudden, like, my pocket was just, full, and they were so beautiful. They had, like, I would look at them, and some of them were deep brown and had all these swirls in them, and then other ones were lighter colored and speckled, and they were just super beautiful. And then the periwinkles almost always are like checkerboard patterns. They're like these little, it looks like what you'd get a container of those roasted nuts in at the fair. That's what those periwinkles look like, but they're always almost checkerboard. And I was like, oh, I just love these, and my pocket was swollen with them, and I noticed other people walking by looking down, and they were looking for shells too and hoping to find them, and they were digging through stuff and all of that. And I thought to myself, what if I just walked to them and gave them a seashell and just said, here, I found this for you. And I decided to do that. Like, something just like pushed me. Like, I believe it was the, God saying, go do this, you're going to learn something here. So I had this pocket full of seashells, and I just started giving them away. People that were looking for seashells, I'd hand them one. Here's a seashell for you. You're looking here, put this in your bag. And they would always stop and just like have, first of all, surprise on their face. Every single time, surprise on their face, and then this kind of deep down like joy, like, oh my gosh, thank you. And they'd sit and look at the shell, and then they'd put it in their bag, and you could just tell it just was like such a great experience that someone handed them a seashell. And so then I started giving them to kids, because I had this whole pocket full, and the kids, are all in the shells and everything, and I would like give like a whole handful to them. And that was the blast, because they were like, oh my gosh, look at this, Mama. And everybody was sort of surprised by just being handed seashells. And I had so much joy in my heart during this time. I mean, it was just so fun. Everybody was having fun. Not that I had a group of people around me. It was just sort of, I call this silent success, where I was just walking along and I was doing the thing, and the next person, and people being surprised and happy. And then someone came running over and said, I've been looking everywhere for those. And everyone's joy just became like bigger and bigger, and their joy became my joy, and all the things. And here's what surprised me about that. I mean, there was a lot that was going on, is how much fun I was having, how fun it was, and how much joy I had. But the more shells I gave away, interestingly, the more I found. Like, all of a sudden, I would look down, and these periwinkles, which you don't find that often, would be in like groups. Like, I could just take a handful of them. Or, the other kind that I don't know the name of, they would also be the same. And then, not just more, but they started being bigger and bigger. These were like, now I'm finding shells that, I was finding when I first started walking that were maybe like 1 inch to 2 inches, long and wide, to finding conch shells and finding the same shell but only like 6 inches, or not that big, but 4 inches or something like that. And more beautiful, like deep colors and things like that. And then it was also me getting, encountering people that I just normally wouldn't talk to, too. And it was almost like, as I was walking along, God was just saying to me, you got this, keep giving, girl, just keep giving. The joy is going to include, watch what's happening, look at the abundance, all of the things. So that was just so freaking amazing. And I've not been able to quit thinking about it since then. Not been able to quit thinking about it. And I don't know if you've ever had, if you're on here with me now, if you've ever had some kind of similar experience where you started like giving somehow, or giving and just being in this place where you were told to do something, and then it just became this like unbelievable experience and became really joyful. And that walk on the beach reminded me of something that it actually taught me this, that as I thought about it, and it stuck with me all day, it was just so much joy, and I just kept thinking about it. As I thought about it, I think that we have the idea of abundance absolutely backwards. I mean, think about this. Most of us think that, and if you're one of these people that have been taught this or thought this, and I've certainly thought this plenty, is once I have enough, I've got to go ahead and get enough. I've got to get enough for me. I've got to get enough for my family. I've got to get enough so that I feel comfortable, and now the words that people use is my nervous system feels comfortable. Then I can give. That is the kind of the mentality, right? Like, we're taught to save, we're taught to invest, we're taught to all the things. And I'm not saying you don't do that. Yes, God is abundant, and we need to have abundance for ourselves too. But we're usually taught it's kind of a two-step process. It's like, take it all, get it, scrape it all in, and then get enough and give from what you have that's extra. And so, the thought process is, when I have extra money or extra time, like I've completed enough for me, and when I feel fully and completely secure, and it's kind of like back to the thing of using your purpose, when I retire, when my kids grow up, it's that thing of when I finally have enough. And well, the truth of that is, does that ever really happen? When all the bills are paid, then I'll have all this money and I can be generous, right? And I can tell you time and time again, when I talk to people that I coach, like I coach their businesses or coach to why they want to start real estate investing, what is that going to do for them? Almost all people tell me, and you tell me if this is true for you, that I want to make a lot of money so I can help other people. They almost all tell me that. They tell me, I want to give to charity, or I want to start a charity, or I want to help, people in poverty. I want to help people that have been through the same experiences I've been through. I want to make a lot of money. I want to be able to give. So the idea is that we're all called, we're all feeling that in our heart. It's not like we're selfish. We want to give, but then we have the message somehow, and this is the backwards piece, the message of, but I can't do it until. I better have enough, and all of the boxes checked, right? Enough money so it's spilling over, enough time so I've got nothing else to do, all of the bills paid, that I'm completely secure and safe. Then I can be generous. But the backwards part of that I saw yesterday, and yes, we're talking about seashells, and we're going to talk about money with this, but all those seashells that I was picking up, it was me picking them up and immediately giving them away. And it wasn't, I do have seashells, but I wasn't like thinking, and I do have a collection of seashells, and I wasn't thinking, I better, do I have enough? I was just in this mode where I was feeling called to give them away, like pick them up, give them away. It's God's abundance, be thankful, and make somebody else happy. And so the seashell, is a little thing and a little example, but then if we take it to a bigger level, if we're really giving, isn't that what we could be doing? Is trusting that there's going to be more. That's what I was doing with the seashells, is that I didn't pick it up and think, oh my God, what if I don't find another one? I better hold on to this always. I will tell you this. I did, when I was finding bigger and bigger ones, and I was finding conch shells. I've always wanted to find a queen's helmet, and I was having such a great experience with this. I did think to myself, it was like a little test question, I think, that came from God. If you found a queen's helmet, Paula, right now, would you give it away? And at that moment, the answer was absolutely yes, because I was just finding more and more and more, and it just felt so great. So getting back to this, giving, true giving, isn't the result of having it all and waiting until you have your coffers filled, you're totally secure, da-da-da-da. It isn't the result of overflowing, almost too much abundance. Giving actually creates the space to receive abundance, to receive more on a bigger level. And we've got this backwards. We somehow have the message that if we just work hard enough, talk about whatever, find whatever, and bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, and then one day open up, maybe I'm going to use money as an example, open up our bank account and have, and I've thought this myself, $34 million. This is a thought I've had. When I have $34 million, then I will, right? But this example was such a great teaching for me, because what happened is as it came in and I sort of blessed it and I blessed other people with what I was receiving, more came, bigger came. It was immediate, true. It was immediate. And I think we can all get this pretty easily with stuff, right? With stuff that isn't money. I think we can all get this with giving out seashells. I think we can get this maybe with giving our time out. Maybe. Some people are like, oh, I'm already too busy and I can't, whatever. When I have time, I can do that. But like, Keith was sharing with me that he loves giving during his church service, and that he does all the stuff he does here in his studio for his church, and that he holds that sacred because it's his gift and he also receives. So I think we can get it in a certain sense about that, but I think when we think about money, okay, so first of all, let me back up and let's talk about what abundance is too. Because, if we're going to find biblical references, and we're going to be like, oh, God is abundant, God is love, love is abundance. If we're going to say that, then is God only money? Is abundance only money? And I can tell you that I've had that conversation where I've had to sort that out. That yes, money is abundance, but there's other things that are abundance too, right? Seashells, time, attention. I mean, I think your children would rather have your attention for 15 minutes than $15. They might, a teenager would probably tell you, give me the $15, but I can tell you they would rather have your attention. That is more abundance to them. Think about kids that have only been, you probably know kids that grew up in, had a lot of resources, and their parents were super busy. And so everything that they wanted was provided to them except for the attention of their parents. And what generally do we think about what happens in that experience? The kid isn't as well-rounded. The kid a lot of times be doing the next thing to get the immediate gratification, drugs or whatever it is. It's abundance. If God's abundance is involved, it has to be more than money. But then let's take that chunk of, yes, God and money are connected. That if we look at God and abundance does include money, then it's not two separate things. God and abundance are connected. And so we got to get right with that too, because a lot of us think, if we're doing until to feel abundant and be abundant and know that we're abundant with money, what are we saying to God? Not, oh, later. Oh, no, not now. So many people are waiting to be debt-free before they're generous. Are you? Waiting to have millions before they help someone. I've been there. Waiting to have extra before they tithe. To feel safe before they trust God. How about that one? To feel completely safe with money. To have the money, your pockets, just like my pockets were full of seashells. To have that full pocket of money before you will trust God. Let's sit with that for just a minute. I got to sit with that for just a minute, because if we think about it, hasn't God always provided for you? I mean, think about it. Like, you've been up against the wall. I've been up against the wall. I've been up against the wall financially many, many times recently. I mean, I shared with y'all how I lost everything in the last little while. And somehow it continues to work out. Somehow I'm provided for. I cannot give you those answers. In fact, I was, the first time like everything really crashed hard in my life, it was during 2008. And I had a lot of real estate. I had a lot of, I was probably worth, I don't know, several $1 million in terms of real estate assets. And at that time, all the houses that I was trying to sell, it's kind of like now, weren't selling. People were moving out of my rental houses. I couldn't sell the rental houses. And I'm making house payments on 11 houses, dudes. 11 houses. Who makes payments on 11 houses? And I was complaining about it, actually, and scared about it. I wasn't trusting God that it would be all right. And I went to one of my friends and I was like, who makes payments on 11 houses? And she turned around and looked at me and she said, someone is rich. You are rich. And I was like thinking to myself, I'm broke, you know, but I was cared for. I did not lose those houses. I do not know. I cannot tell you honestly to this day how that worked out. It was God. And God historically in my life, and your life too, has been there over and over and over again. So why, with money in particular, do we go through this thing where we're scared every time we give, or scared every time we pay a bill? What is it? I think it's that we've got this backwards. And if we could get it, that abundance doesn't begin when your bank account is fat enough or when it grows, but it begins when your heart's open, when you're blessing yourself and other people. I'm not talking about you give it all away and don't take care of yourself or your family. Please do not hear that. But there's a difference between being afraid and knowing that you have enough and you will have enough. So, let's talk about this panic over money. Anybody on here right now ever felt panic over money? I don't know. I have. I'm just going to be honest with you. I probably, last day or so, I've panicked over money. When you're panicking over money, you're really not focused on abundance. And a lot of times you're not focused on God either, or faith. You're focused on lack and doubt, right? Lack and doubt. And the more that you panic, the more you focus on lack and doubt and the what ifs. You know, you make up those stories, right? What are some of the stories? I'll never have enough to pay this. What if it all goes wrong? What if next week I can't do it? What if I lose the house? Well, so, I know people who have lost houses. Their life didn't end. But in those times when we're panicking over money, doesn't every bill that you pay feel like a loss? Like you get afraid when you pay your bills? And then you get into this space where you make a payment and it feels like something's leaving. Like, oh my God, that's left me. That's that fear and doubt. That is not abundance. It's like we get into that space of, what if there isn't enough? What if some way, somehow, there isn't enough? And I'm going to tell you something true, because we can get into this loop. I can get into this loop. And I have gotten into this loop. And I tell myself, yeah, people like Paula, they're saying this is a loop you're in, but she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand what I'm going through right now. Girl, I understand what you're going through. Been there, done that, do it too. But what if we said, this is a story I'm telling, and instead make a decision that instead of the story of lack and fear, we're going to tell the story, a different story of God and abundance and provision. And I know you've heard this before, but what if you said, instead of what if there isn't enough, what if it all goes wrong, turning around and saying, I can make a decision on what I tell myself a story of. What if instead I change the story to, God has always provided? And then you go and look at your history of where God has always provided. I want you to think about that right now. Where in your life has God amazingly provided for you? And it's that fear that keeps us from giving, from seeing it as a blessing, from trusting God. That fear really, I think, is it's not, first of all, it's not of God. It's not. And so if it's not of God, it's not real, right? It's of the destroyer. And isn't it make the destroyer so happy if you can just sit around in fear, right? And it makes us grip even tighter. It makes us grip ourselves, our emotional state, what we won't give, lack of joy. But when we can turn this around to the story of God always provides, and even this money, if you could even just tell yourself right now, just say this mantra and stop yourself, like take a pause. Remember the seashells. Remember me just picking them up, handing them out, and the joy people had. And remember that more and more came, and bigger came, and try to trust that story a bit, okay? And then just pause and tell yourself, this money is going out and blessing other people. It's blessing their families that they receive it. It's blessing the employees that they receive their income. It's blessing. This money that I'm sending out is a blessing, and it's a blessing of God. And so therefore, it has no choice but to multiply in my life. I send this out with blessing, and I send this out with the knowledge that in God and abundance, it will always multiply. And just give yourself a break for a minute. And then do something different than what you'd usually do. Like so many times, we have this posture that we take, like when we're scared about money. Like for me, it's shoulders up, it's stomach tight, I mean, I know the physical posture, but on purpose, change your posture. Like literally take a breath and relax your shoulders and just be like God always provides and relax. I love to say this, and I've said this before, it is done, more money comes, Jesus has won, it is done, the angels have been deployed, I am blessed, and so I rest. And just rest myself.